Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. And once again, a big thank you to Neil Thompson, who emailed in. If you did listen to the show yesterday, I was talking about trying to feature more actionable tips on the show. And Neil said, actionable tips should be the only type of tips. Other tips aren't worth much at all. Good point, well made, my friend. And he also said he listened to the episode about Nova's tech startup program, and he said that he agrees with Andrew that finding a problem to solve within a niche is best, as opposed to overextending yourself. And for anyone that missed that episode, which I think was episode 900, and the title was How to Go From Idea to a Successful Tech Startup Business, I urge you to check that episode out, because as for me, I enjoy talking to every guest on here. But episode 900 with Nova has sparked so much conversation, engagement and emails than any episode I've done in a long time. It really seems to have struck a chord with everyone. And another topic that I've been reading about is tips of another variety, and that is tipping online creators. It seems that so many creators now that if you're listening to them or watching their videos, are asking people to tip them. And those creators could be asking you to tip from the Brave browser, from Patreon. And my friend Sam Latimer sent me one the other day called We Are Tip Jar. I think that's the name of the website, which also enables anyone to get tips online. Not actionable ones, Neil Thompson, if you're listening, but monetary ones. It's got me thinking, where do you all stand on this? My friend Sam says he thinks it solves a real problem and he could see his wife using it. And he said that because Sam is a fellow techie and his barometer for tech success is asking the question, but will my wife use it? That's the way he looks at mainstream adoption. So I'm interested in your thoughts. Although it seems to be the norm right now, at the end of every video, podcast or blog post, there's usually something that goes along the lines of, please send me a tip. For me personally, it feels like a form of digital begging. But am I right or am I wrong? Over to you. I want to hear both sides of the argument. And while you ponder that argument, it's time I stop rambling and got a guest on. And we're going to talk about how the approach to enterprise networking is extremely flawed. And by that, I mean faster speeds, because they don't automatically equal faster results. Now, through extensive interviews with customers, partners, and industry analysts, Aerohive, which is a leader in cloud-managed networks, has identified 4 crucial demands for the enterprise of the future. And they've recently unveiled 2 new artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies that are going to help businesses meet these new demands head-on. Intrigued? Me too. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Manchester here in the UK so we can speak with Matthew Edwards from Aerohive. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Matthew. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Hi, Neil. Yeah, thank you for inviting me onto the show. So I guess as a very quick introduction to myself, I'm Matthew Edwards from the product marketing team at Aerohive Networks. I guess as a very small snippet background, I've been working in the networking, predominantly in the wireless industry for the last, I'd say 15 years now. Very much a grassroots technical background for probably a good 10 years, working through various vendors, partners over the years. I think after a decade of doing that, someone finally had the courage to tell me that I wasn't a very good systems engineer. And instead of breaking networks, I would be better suited in marketing. So these days I work in the product marketing team at Aerohive Networks and just love sharing passionately about our technologies and cloud networking and wireless and access networks in general.
But do you miss breaking networks? That's the big question.
Oh, I still manage to do it from time to time. But yeah, I think even more so now I'm in marketing and I have less hands-on technical abilities where my ego probably won't let me think that I've lost all that. So I still dabble around and break stuff at will.
Now, before we talk about Aerohive, I wanted to dive into the kind of problems that you're helping to solve there. So can you tell me a little bit more about exactly what's wrong with today's approach to enterprise networking and why faster speeds don't automatically equate to faster results?
Yeah, absolutely. So, before we dive into the Aerohive side of things. Yeah, I guess over the years, as everyone knows, there's been a general evolution of networking. There's a much more larger emphasis these days on things like machine learning, AI, cloud, all the typical buzzwords that get thrown around, and we'll talk more about those later. But I wouldn't say necessarily there's anything wrong with today's approach to networking. As I said, I think it's more of there's an evolution, but 100% agree that faster speeds don't equal faster results. And again, as I said, I've been working in the wireless industry for over a decade now, and it used to be very much about speeds and feeds. And today, that should be a baseline. I think any customer looking at their network landscape in general, fast performance, reliable performance, secure connectivity, absolutely crucial, critical, but really foundational. There should be a minimum expectation from any network, and really any access network you put in to your organization at these levels and today should be delivering decent connectivity, should be providing somewhat reliable network access, and of course, depending on the vendor that you're working with, will provide various levels and means of securing the network. So those things are still very important, and most vendors will deliver that to some extent. I think where the network is evolving, though, is not necessarily speed, but smart. So it's the intelligence that wraps into the network that I would say makes it more valuable or provides more value beyond connectivity today. So if connectivity is the baseline, then the value on top of that is being able to interpret or understand or analyze the data that's flowing in and around that network. So I think where we're transitioning to for a value add from network connectivity today and enterprise networking solutions in general is by combining the typical hardware and the software that we've had from a connectivity standpoint, combining that with the power of cloud networking, which is where most of the industry now is moving towards. In fact, it's the fastest growing segment of enterprise networking today, and using that power of the cloud to start feeding more data back to customers, both at the IT level and at the business level. So fast, reliable, secure connectivity, always going to be an absolute must and essential. But as you say, it's not just about making networks faster and faster. It's still important, but the real value is making them smarter and smarter, I would say.
Now, over the years, Aerohive has developed a bit of a reputation as a leader in cloud-managed networking. And it also seems that you've identified 4 crucial demands for the enterprises of the future. But can you walk listeners through what those 4 crucial demands are for people that have not heard them or are unaware of them?
Yeah, and I'm actually smiling to myself a little bit at the moment because I just realised I'm probably going to contradict myself somewhat a little bit at the moment. Because I just said it's not about making networks fast. But the thing we're kind of currently, I would say, evangelizing or propagating out in the market is that networks should be fast. Well, I'm not really contradicting myself. It's more of a play on words. So when we say networks should be fast, it's really an acronym, and really kind of tipping the hat to the fact that networks are typically known to be fast, and that's a baseline requirement, as I mentioned. But really what we've identified is, as you said, 4 key areas or crucial elements of the network that should be delivered to organizations today. And the acronym FAST basically breaks down into flexible, actionable insights, security, and overall technology advancements. So briefly to touch on each of those, flexibility, what does that mean? Well, as we said, you mentioned yourself here, we've been leading in the cloud networking space for many, many years now. The industry is catching up with this. More customers are adopting cloud networking than ever before, but not everyone is, and it's a transitionary phase. So there's organizations out there that see the value, the benefits, the rapid innovation, the continuous delivery of adopting cloud managed networking. But there's also many organizations out there for a variety of reasons, whether it be compliance or security control or mandates from the organization, where cloud networking or cloud solutions in general just cannot be adopted or have to be limited in some respect. So the idea of flexibility for networking in general is that We recognize that customers want to move to the cloud, but some can't. And so we want to be able to offer them the ability to, say, start with a on-premises solution, move to the cloud, or move from the cloud to their own data center hosted solution. Or if they've got, say, 50 or 100 wireless access points in their environment, what happens when they want to, or need, I would say, need to double the number of devices in their network? How easy is that to do? And what we found with a lot of, again, legacy architectures over the years is that there are limitations when it comes to scale. It can either be from a technical point of view or a commercial point of view. And so there's hidden challenges that may not hit customers on day one, but as they come to scale their network or change their design, they might find that suddenly they're getting stung for prices that they weren't aware of. So our aim certainly is that we want to be transparent and open and help customers through this transitionary phase, and also help them to rapidly scale out and easily scale out their network, because as we know, the landscape, the demands, the capacity requirements of networks constantly changing. You design a network for day one, probably not going to serve you in the same way by day even 76, let alone 3 or 5 years out of the way. And then kind of with that is the actionable insight. So if we're talking about that, not everyone having a crystal ball and being able to see through day 182 or 3 years away, actionable insights, what I spoke about earlier, a very powerful way to start, again, leveraging the power of cloud networking to start seeing more of the network, not only who's connected, but what's happening in and around the environment. How can we extract that data for business value or IT value? So again, access points, they sit at the edge of the network, and they really act as a gateway between the organization on one side and then the organization's people or customers or students, whoever it may be, on the other side. So now, instead of Wi-Fi just being that conduit, that fast pipe for providing connectivity in each direction, now it's able to sit in the middle and start understanding how are the people and the organization interacting, how are the people or the client's devices interacting with other parts of the network or applications outside that space. What does that mean for us as an organization? What does this mean for our IT department? How can we start interpreting and analyzing that data? And that's really where the shift towards the power of cloud, ML, AI are all becoming more critical components to networking in general. And then, speaking of critical components, the next one will be security. We mentioned this as a foundational element of networking in general at the start of the podcast. And so when we're on to S, very much, and will always be one of the key things that people focus on when we talk about the access layer, with the increased threat landscape with BYOD, corporate, guest, now IoT devices coming into the network. We need to have a constant view, the who's, the what's, the when's, the where's, the why's, in and around our network. So who's on the network, what device are they connecting with, where are they connecting, when are they connecting, should they be connecting in these certain places, what are they trying to do on the network? And then based on all those parameters, well, how do we do something about that? So there's a lot more shift, again, fueled by cloud, around things like security behavioral analytics. So really driving into understanding what's on the network, what's happening, how should these interactions take place, and really make sure, as we're providing more capacity for people to connect more devices onto the network, that when those devices are connected, that they're doing what they should be, both from inside and outside the network. And then the last thing that I guess really wraps all this up is T, which is technology advancements. And again, as we said, everything is shifting, everything is evolving, everything's changing. So what we plan for, design for now, can change very quickly as we have new devices or new threats pop up in the network, or we have just a general increased demand for capacity. So yes, things like Wi-Fi 6 or 11AX coming into the market, great thing, advancing the capacity. But there's no point just putting more speed out in the network and expecting that will serve the purpose. As the old saying goes, if you build it, they will come. And it's the same with Wi-Fi capacity. So if you're designing a network for more speed, you've also got to think about efficiency. So it's like providing a multi-lane motorway or highway for your devices. Well, great, you can put the highway there, but we all know that can very quickly become congested because maybe not everyone's driving Ferraris. In fact, probably not. Or there's an accident, there's collision, there's interference, all these critical factors that we have to acknowledge and prepare for. So Wi-Fi 6 goes part of the way, but where the technology advancements come in is not necessarily on the speed, but the efficiency, and then applying things like machine learning to accurately divide bandwidth based on who's in the network, what they're doing, who's important, who's not. So it's always about adaptability, I think, and so A could easily be adaptability. How do we prepare? How do we shift as the threats, as the capacity, as the monitoring, the visibility requirements all change in the network? So yes, F.A.S.T is still relevant, but it's just very different in the way that we're talking about it today.
And one of the other reasons I invited you on the show today was to talk about how you recently announced 2 artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies that are going to help businesses meet these new demands head on that we've just talked about. So can you expand on that announcement for anybody that missed it?
Yeah, I think as we talk about, well, I'll go back to F.A.S.T. We mentioned actionable insights, and really when we talk about machine learning, when we talk about AI, that's all wrapped into that area. So really important for the operation of modern day networks. As I said, cloud networking is the anchor point of all this. We've been doing cloud for over 10 years now. So we recognize this trend very early on, and we wanted to help drive and pioneer the shift into cloud networking. We've learned things over the years. Now we're operating on a 3rd generation architecture. So this is all based around microservices, using native AI, machine learning, running in AWS environments. This can be public cloud, can be private cloud. But behind all this, through all these buzzwords, what I effectively want to say is there's a lot of data available. Not sensitive data in any way, but data of how my client device, i.e. my phone or my laptop, is connecting to an access point. And as we start interpreting and understanding different patterns, different trends, we can then apply new policies or changes in the environment to make sure that the network is operating efficiently. So to give you an idea, this new architecture that we've shifted to, it's processing about 1 million data points every single second from millions of connected devices and clients. And so with that, we have a lot of data to work with. And so what we're doing now is now having the means to kind of collect, to process, to analyze, to interpret. We can take that data and then feed that back to our customers. So when they're looking at their management platform, instead of just saying, Matthew or Neil's laptop or phone is connected to the network, now it can be much more, how is that device interacting with the network? And so we can track kind of the location of that device. You could replay this historically. We can do things like looking at the maximum client capabilities. So going back to what I said around having big highways, Neil, if you had a latest smartphone with a new Wi-Fi 6 chipset, the infrastructure could identify that you are an 11AX client, where I might have an older 11AC. Now, just because your device is 11AX or Wi-Fi 6 capable doesn't actually mean that it's going to be operating like that on the network. It might actually be dropping its capabilities. So we're starting to surface a lot more of these insights. So customers can actually see, of all the client devices on my network, how many of them are 11AX, how many of them are 11AC. And correspondingly, what does my infrastructure look like? Is it 11N? Is it 11AC? Is it 11AX? Who are the types of people that are using these devices? Therefore, do I need to roll out 11AX in all of my environment, or maybe the strategic locations if I don't want to do a full upgrade right now. So it gives our customers a better view and scope of what's really happening in their environment. And then the next layer of that will then be applying policies to better optimize for those kinds of devices. And we do levels of that already today, but it's about how do we take that to the next level. So there's a wealth of valuable data for our customers available. And because we're looking at this from an aggregated cloud point of view, we can use this to do trend analysis and then feedback recommendations for our customers based on what we're learning. So like I said, the max client capabilities will be one example, the client trails, following people in and around their day and seeing the performance they were getting in and around a certain building. Were they having certain issues? It helps IT then have an historical look back into the network. So instead of trying to replicate or catch a problem in the moment, using big data, you can go back a month, replay by an hour, see in real time or historically what was happening to that particular client. So it's a really exciting time to be able to then start seeing really what's going on with the network, and then how do we apply intelligence to then make the performance or the security of the network even better.
And just to help any business leaders or anybody listening visualize the kind of difference that you're making, do you have any use cases or examples that you could share that would help people understand the difference that this could make in their world?
I think everyone's still getting their heads around things, again, like I said earlier, getting their heads around machine learning, AI, cloud networking, all these terms. And like you said, Neil, trying to apply this to the real world. What does it mean for me? It all sounds really cool. There's lots of data and intelligence, and how does that really affect my day to day? I would say, broadly speaking, our customers are using these technologies to, or basically just reduce operational complexity, reduce the amount of time they're having to manage their network, or not necessarily manage, but dealing with some of those menial tasks of their networks. When, if I come to you, Neil, and I can't get my my iPad connected to the network, and I'm bashing my head, it's probably me just entering the wrong password. That's 99% of cases. But what the intelligence allows us to provide our customers is the way to then see what's really going on, because there's two sides to every story, but data never lies. So the power of the cloud data analysis allows customers or IT departments to very quickly see where the problem lies. And often by applying machine learning and AI, you can then actually just remedy this before it's even become an issue. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of troubleshooting, fault analysis, and allows the IT department to focus on more important things, more strategic involvement with IT systems for business optimization, rather than trying to figure out someone's fat fingers entering wrong passwords onto a network, onto their device. I think more, so that, the IT side is very much about how do I streamline my operations? How do I make the network easier to manage? How do I make the network work for me instead of the other way around? And then at a business level, we're seeing customers use some of the data intelligence, like the client trails, for facilities management. So, for example, we can see in a building that there's 100 people. The data gathering and the feedback and the visualization allows facilities teams, allows IT teams to see, well, throughout, say, a 24-hour period or Monday to Friday, how many people are in the building? Where in the building were they? Where were the hotspots? How long were they there for? And because we're moving into this age of more remote working, more mobile usage, more mobile applications, we might find that there's not as many people in the office. So by having the data intelligence and the visualization, facilities teams can look at this and be like, okay, I can see that 50% of my team isn't even here throughout the week. So maybe we don't need as much office space and fixed desks as we thought. And I've seen Customers use APIs off the back of this to integrate with other systems, and everybody has hot desks. So nobody has a fixed desk in their building. And when they come in, they've got an application, and it knows who they are. And again, using Wi-Fi presence technology and Bluetooth low energy proximity analysis, and says, okay, Neil or Matt has just walked into the building. We can see based on the meetings that they have today that they're probably going to spend most of their time on the 14th floor. We're going to assign them this desk, and that's it. And then we know that based on their calendar, they're going to be out of the building the rest of the time. It can also feed to, say, the cleaning departments. Again, could be in an office, could be in a hotel. And by collecting that data, you could understand, there's just been 10 people in this boardroom. They've just cleaned out. They've just left after a 2-hour meeting. And, there's a meeting that's due 1 hour from now. So I'm going to redirect the cleaning services to that particular area. So it gives, it's not only just a IT value add in terms of understanding what people are doing in and around the network, how do we apply security policies, performance policies. This also very much lends itself to a business case and allows organizations to start getting an ROI from their network. And again, going back 10, 15 years plus, the conversation that I would always have as a systems engineer with customers would be based on TCO, how XYZ infrastructure can lower your CapEx or OpEx. Now it's about how do we get value back from these solutions that we're putting in. So again, the connectivity is a commodity, but the data provides a whole wealth of new IT and business value. So it's getting pretty interesting. I've even seen, I guess as a last one, I've seen warehouses implementing Wi-Fi connected robots, and again they're using the location tracking to understand how to better optimize their floor space, their layouts, based on the kind of the triangulation, the tracking, the location-based services of those robots that are out autonomously picking up. Well, I guess maybe your Amazon delivery. So yeah, loads of interesting use cases, both on the IT side and on the business side. And yeah, just really highlights the critical nature of Wi-Fi beyond connectivity, and really showing how Wi-Fi is evolving to become much more intelligent when combined with cloud networking.
And I also think it's worth highlighting that Aerohive's innovations and global cloud footprint have simplified access network operations, but for 30,000 plus customers and 10 million plus daily users. So those figures on their own are phenomenal. But I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities in this space?
Well, I said it earlier, but 1 million data points processed in our cloud infrastructure and growing daily. We've got about 1 million cloud connected infrastructure devices daily, and then connected to that, we've got then 10 million daily users, and again, growing constantly across all our data centers. So it's a pretty monumental number. I think if this had been a few years ago, the challenge would have been scale, capacity. As I mentioned earlier, one thing that we've done is we've migrated to a microservices-based architecture, which essentially allows limitless scale. So every time there's new compute power or storage power required, we're already running that at a micro level. So we can just redistribute resources very quickly, efficiently, intelligently. So that's just helping to keep everything kind of seamlessly running in the background. So we're running, we're talking about millions of data points at the moment. We can keep scaling that. So just like the capacity challenges that you find at the access layer with access points or switches or routers, same thing happens in the cloud. The more data that's being processed, analyzed, interpreted, understood, you need to make sure that you've got capacity. So as a general tip, if anybody is making the transition to cloud, and the vendors that you're working with, ask for the details. Ask for what's behind the curtain. Okay, is this a Wizard of Oz show? Is this just a little man behind the curtain, or is this a real, fully fledged cloud architecture system? Because again, I think when we talk about the challenges, one thing, and we run into this a lot, is about awareness and misinformation. I said earlier, AI, machine learning, cloud networking, buzzwords that just get thrown around. I've probably got a brochure at home for an ML and AI assisted vacuum cleaner, I'm sure. So everybody's just throwing this term out there. So it's really important to do some due diligence, because what you'll find, and we've seen this with other technologies, is you get to a tipping point where the capacity isn't there. And what it can mean is that, say, your analytic systems, your network management software can become very lagged, very slow. So it's just something to be aware of. We're talking much more in kind of the plumbing and piping here. But as customers do migrate into this new area, we want to make sure that everybody is getting, what's really advertised, i.e. cloud networking, ML, AI. And so that's when we talk about kind of this third generation platform. That's really what it entails. It's providing the ability to collect enormous amounts of data, but more importantly, then by applying ML and AI, actually then interpreting that data and making it valuable for customers. So the opportunity is all around ML AI. It's about collecting, processing, analyzing, and interpreting vast amounts of data into consumable bite-sized chunks for our customers at high level, low level, whatever they require to be able to better understand their customers and the devices that are connected in the network. So we've got a vision to really change the way that customers view, interact, and engage with their network, how they configure their network, how they support their network, how they report on their network, how they can remedy any challenges, again, automatically and dynamically, with a much more hands-off approach for menial tasks. So we're trying to make things much more simpler for our customers. And that's really the aim of the game from an IT perspective, streamlining and simplifying. And then at the business level, how do we then extract that data, either within our system or via APIs, to make much more informed commercial solutions and data sets for our customers. So challenges, misinformation, opportunity, a wealth of untapped data for our customers. That's an absolute goldmine to change the way they operate their IT and business organizations.
And as we've discussed, Aerohive uses cloud management, machine learning, artificial intelligence, and uses them all to radically simplify and secure the access network. But what is it that genuinely excites you about the future of these technologies, especially when they're converging? And what kind of changes they're going to bring?
Automation, self-learning. We've seen it over the years where IT departments are effectively, they take care of the network, or maybe a service provider takes care of the network. It's not really been the other way around. So now what we're starting to see is a shift in networks that take care of customers, not customers taking care of their network. So as I mentioned, kind of removing all those the menial tasks or chasing ghosts. It's not a good use of departments' times. And I've had it where, I remember I was in a warehouse once and I probably spent 30 days on a particular site several years ago, and they were having connectivity issues with forklift trucks. I know this isn't everybody's use case day to day, so imagine you're running around with your iPads around a building. It's the same scenario. But we had forklifts where they were dropping connectivity to the wireless network, and I was putting laptops on the back of these forklift trucks. I was running around in a hard hat, high-vis vest, trying to not get run over by these forklift trucks, trying to do packet captures, spectrum analysis, both on the wireless side, on the back-end network. And it was just an ongoing nightmare. And it's the same challenge that IT departments face 10 times over with all of the different devices, the clients, the users that are connecting. There's so many different kinds of security policies out there that people can implement for corporate guest, BYOD, IoT networks. There's capacity challenges, security challenges, reliability challenges. And so IT departments get more and more sucked into dealing with a lot of unknown quantities. And so the opportunity, the excitement of this is, if I go back to being an SC at some point, I don't have to run around chasing forklifts and fearing for my life anymore. I can log into the cloud, and there is enough data intelligence happening at the client level, at the AP level, at the cloud level, to interpret that for me. So I can sit there and start pulling reports, again, looking back historically, not trying to figure out in real time what's happening, or spent hours troubleshooting networks before, just waiting, not actively troubleshooting, just waiting for a problem to be replicated. And how often does that happen? It's like we say about buses, right? That you wait 2 hours for one, doesn't appear, and then they all come at once. And it's the same thing with networking, that you're just waiting, especially with wireless. It's, all right, show me where the problem was. Okay, come over with you. Okay, this just isn't happening. Go back to your desk. The user phones you up. Got that problem again. Okay, what's going on? Oh no, it's disappeared. And it's just that never-ending cycle. So the exciting thing is really moving ourselves away from that, being able to, still look at the network as a whole in real time, but also look back. And again, it's not just for troubleshooting aspects, although that's a big part of it. It's also about, again, how do we see what people were generally doing at a particular given time? What's the productivity levels of people? Again, we had it once where we had a new starter in our office, and our network was operating unusually slow. We were doing a lot of online meetings, video conferences, and everything was just intermittent. And we spent hours troubleshooting it. And eventually we found out this new starter had brought in their own laptop, and they were just downloading a bunch of torrents on their device on the network. So that at the time, this was before things like application visibility and control, contextualized security policies, and while we still trusted everyone, which is a golden rule in IT: never trust anyone, just don't do it. So now, as we apply more intelligence, more analytics, more visibility to the network, it saves us a huge amount of time in the way that we understand how the network is being used, good and bad. And again, same thing, looking at this from an IT level and a business level. So the excitement is automation. It's about self-learning, and it's about extracting the data to be able to provide more valuable insights throughout the organization, which will become increasingly important as we get more IoT devices popping up into the network. They throw a whole new challenge into the era of access networking. I think, when IT departments think they've got everything sussed, first we got corporate devices onto wireless networks. Then we dealt with how do we securely allow guests to connect to the network, then BYOD. Now, having solved all those, and which many IT departments are still grappling with, we're now into the era of IoT, which is, again, it's a whole new unknown. So, again, a whole range of exciting opportunities with IoT. But again, if you're working with vendors, just check out their roadmap. Make sure that there is a plan for IoT, and make sure it's tangible, because just like BYOD, I hear a lot of people saying, no, we're not going to allow IoT, or we don't have IoT devices in the network. Well, not quite accurate. Just like BYOD, usually when you think you haven't got any devices, they're already there. Facilities or your users, someone's plugged some IoT device into your network, and it's increasing the threat exposure. And so what we want to make sure, again, in the realm of cloud networking and all this AI and ML, is that we're able to identify, analyze, quarantine these IoT devices, because they could very easily provide opportunities, but also provide challenges in the network. So again, just another area where cloud networking becomes extremely powerful.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned IT departments, because it seems to me that Aerohive has gone out to pioneer new technologies that enable IT to rethink what's possible. But I'm curious, are you seeing IT departments starting to think differently and moving away from their old ways of just being the custodians or the guardians of the network?
In terms of the way that things are evolving. Aerohive, we're evolving. We have to adapt. We have to evolve. We've adapted and evolved our wireless technologies. We've adapted and evolved cloud networking, security solutions over the years. And as I've mentioned throughout this, our sole aim is to make the lives of IT departments easier. And really the same thing, we line our goal with IT. So IT is always thinking differently in terms of how do they streamline operations for their customers, i.e. their users. So really we're all working towards the same path. IT is looking to streamline their operations, improve network security, increase agility, gather more insights. Our job is to help them do the same. So we see, I think specifically things that we see are less focus on hardware, more focus on software. So again, going full circle, what we said at the beginning is, yes, things like speed, capacity are important, and you get that from the latest generation of wireless access points. But as we talk about more of the value of insights, data, visibility, that comes from much more of the software side, and software incorporating cloud networking as well. So customers definitely focusing much more on the value that they get from their network management software and servers, their analytics capabilities, what APIs are available to extract data. So that's definitely one trend. Still, I mean, to the line, I mean, people are still looking for the latest, greatest technology. So even though I say less importance on the hardware, people are definitely interested in Wi-Fi 6. We've seen the adoption rates of Wi-Fi 6/11ax being at the fastest ever. So people are looking to still increase the capacity, but it's not the driving factor of networking. And then I think overall, it's more openness to things like cloud. I think cloud has become inevitable now. Over the years, obviously, we've seen companies like Salesforce, Microsoft, Office, all the applications that we use these days, they're all predominantly based on the cloud. And networking is now naturally falling in that path as well. So more IT departments are testing, trying, implementing cloud networking. And over the years, we've bolstered our cloud infrastructure to help make that an easier decision. So, I mentioned the move to the latest generation architecture, but also the cloud provides customers with faster innovation, continuous updates, increased reliability. We've ensured that everything is GDPR compliant from our perspective. We've just recently certified all our data centers and operations for ISO 27001. So it gives people more confidence in moving more of their infrastructure to the cloud. So it's, so IT mentality, still very much how do we optimize, streamline our operations? Still probably thinking the same. How do I get that user to stop being so annoying? Sadly, that will never happen. But the general trend or the shift is towards looking at more of these data solutions, looking at software over hardware, still factoring in hardware to provide more capacity. So adopting the latest generations or iterations of technology faster, and then just that open willingness to explore and move to the cloud. And as I said, cloud networking has become the fastest growing segment of enterprise access networking, and so we're seeing that shift and that mentality showing through the numbers.
And for anyone listening that's we've really captured their curiosity and intrigued by all the subjects that we've mentioned today, because I'm conscious we've covered a lot of ground. What's the best way of finding you guys online, or maybe even reaching a member of your team, or if they have any questions after our conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to aerohive.com, aerohive.com, for lots of information on there. We've got a great blog as well, which you can access through the homepage or the navigation, which talks about some of these trends as well. You can email me direct if anyone has any specific questions, which is medwards@aerohive.com. I know I'm being brave by putting that out there, but please email me, send me any of your thoughts or questions. But we're really open here. Always happy to hear from people and get their thoughts on the latest technology shifts.
And you've just destroyed your chances of reaching the mythical island of inbox zero by passing your email out there, haven't you?
Pretty much, yes. That dream was long gone. Many years ago.
It doesn't exist, believe me. A huge thank you for coming on and joining me today. We all hear about cloud management, machine learning, and artificial intelligence, and like you said, there's a whole brochure of buzzwords out there at the moment. But I love how you're actually using this to radically simplify and secure the access network, and doing it right now, not in the future either. So a big thank you for taking the time to come and share that story with me today. Thanks, Matt.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Neil.
Yes, Aerohive Networks is a leader in cloud-managed networking that has unveiled 2 new innovations that further strengthen Aerohive's cloud-managed networking vision. But the devil is in the details. And what I really love about this is the tech is actually the result of extensive interviews with customers, partners and industry analysts. And as a result of those conversations, Aerohive has identified the enterprise demands. It's not just a fast network, but a fast future. And by that, of course, I mean FAST, the acronym, which is flexibility, actionable insights, security across the network, and technology innovations. People and problems first, and then asking the question, how can technology solve it? That is the stuff right there that rocks my world. But over to you. Any takeaways from today's conversation, whether it be about Aerohive or indeed tipping? Is it digital begging or not? You know the drill. You can get all of the podcast episodes over on my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. You can email me directly, techblogwriter@outlook.com. Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you can send me a DM on there as well. Just have a quick look for Neil C. Hughes, aka Tech Blog Writer. I'm the easiest guy in the world to find. But man, I love having you guys around and you being a part of these daily conversations. But before I start rambling on, getting all teary and stuff, nobody wants to see that. So I'm just going to say thanks for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.